It's Borderline
with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf.
Let's go. And good afternoon, good evening, actually, as most of you would say to me. Welcome to Borderlines, the only show that takes you beyond borders. First, you all know what has happened in America. We've talked about America. You all know how important what happens in America, how it reflects and impacts what goes on around the world, in particular Africa. We have discussed that extensively. We've talked about it in relation to Nigeria, in relation to Africa, like I said, in relation to Congo. You think of it in relation to Palestine, in relation to Israel, even the UK. The last time we spoke about America, there was an election going on. It was between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I call it Trump 2.0. Nobody expected it would be so groundbreaking. The one thing we didn't know was that the shift would be so big. And of course, since then, you all know what's happened. Donald Trump is now the president-elect of the UK, of the United States. So much so that he's already gone to meet with Biden, and they've already shook hands. And they've agreed that everything is going to be fine. Incidentally, the same thing that Trump didn't do the last time, Biden did. Anyway, the last guest I discussed America with is a young lady, a filmmaker, an African development business consultant. She's a Harvard graduate. She has a deep commitment to advancing Pan-African empowerment. Her name is Kenim. Oh, Kenim, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me again.
Oh, absolutely. We've got a lot to catch up on. I mean, look at what's happened. First and foremost, on the 9th of the 5th, give me your thoughts as you were watching the results. Let's talk about that first.
So I think just before bedtime, it was clear that Donald Trump won. And I guess for me, I have the ability to be objective about these things. So it was like, okay, well, Trump won. So I set aside the analysis that I did in my previous documentary where I broke down both of them. I kind of set aside the Kamala thing, and then I started looking into, okay, what does a Trump presidency look like? Because it was clear that, he had won, and there are pros for Africa, there are benefits for Africa, which we'll discuss. So I just sort of said, okay, well, Kamala lost. Unfortunately, Donald Trump won. Fortunately for him, let's look at what does that look like now?
Were you not surprised? Were you not surprised as results began to come in, especially exit polls, and you're thinking, were you not?
So the thing is, I was and I wasn't. We've been through this before. It was the night when Hillary lost, and that shocker. So I could understand sort of that resounding feeling of almost like depression for especially Black people that came over last year. Started happening again. And about the Trump 16, and when people were being bold and racist, it was happening as well. But I just kind of thought, look, Trump has been president before. It didn't kill us. Well, actually, let me not say that. It did kill me. It's not funny though. It did kill like
no, you mean
a lot
you
of people
survived.
with COVID.
You survived.
We survived. Some of us survived. America survived. Let me put it that way. And so it wasn't the end of the world. I know, and I already look at the media, especially like the left-wing media in America, as very dramatic and extreme when they're discussing Trump. So I wasn't taking it the way that a typical left-wing consumer would take it, but I was just sort of like, okay, well, it wasn't the end of the world, and it can't be that bad this time. But we're yet to see what happens.
Right. It's true. Look, let me read out. There's something that you said in your documentary. You said the Democrats promise everything but commit to nothing. Could that have been the issue? Could that have been the thing that killed them?
Absolutely. You know, the thing about the Democrats, and what I would say, you know, is that they were focusing too much on trying to capture the centrist voter, that they completely ignored the far left voters. So Trump had this populist rhetoric, but he was capturing the populists on the right, and Kamala sort of, you know, even Biden kind of acted like, oh, we already have the populists on the left. And if they had just like paid attention to the wishes of the populists on the left, some of it was like the issues with Gaza, some of it was various economic issues. If they had captured their base instead of trying to capture this new base that just wasn't even devoted to them, they would have had more traction. I'll just give you some statistics.
Please.
I believe like it was about 95% of registered Republicans voted for Donald Trump, right? And so they were spending all this time capturing 5% of the Republican Party when they could have just gone for more independents. So I'll give you some more statistics. 34% of voters in this election were registered Republicans. 34 were independents, and 32 were Democrats. So it's clear that people have been leaving the Democratic Party. A lot of them moved to the Republican Party. A lot of them went in the center. So it was now looking at, okay, since I'm not affiliated with any party, and I'm one of them, I'm one of the independents, but since I'm not affiliated with any party, let me weigh my pros and cons about the various issues that are important to me and decide who I'm going to vote for. I actually had a tally sheet of, you know, and I gave them a point system from -40 to +40. And that's how I decided, okay, what are all the issues I care about? Let me give it a tally. And then whoever gets the most numbers will win with me. So like people are evaluating it like that. They're not loyal. And unfortunately, the Democrats did not spend enough time, you know, holding on to their base, and listening to their base.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that. So let's stay on the Democrats. You talked about their base. Their base, Michigan, the Muslims who have always voted, or the Arab Americans who have always voted Democrats, blacks, black men, young people, they all seem to have shifted. Well, definitely we know the Arabs did, but even more so is black young people, men, you know, and stuff. They shifted away from the Democrats to Trump. Why?
Okay, so there's this false narrative that the media likes to push, especially left-wing media, on black men. They give a lot of attention to black men for this, which is just it's unfair, and I feel like there's a lot of like, what's the word, misogynoir?
So
hatred
towards misogynoir.
That's women, hatred to women. I think
black women.
Well, yeah,
black women.
Well, black men. But I'm saying black men. There's a lot of hatred towards black men. Misandry. I can't remember the name.
Misandry noir.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that goes on in the media, villainizing black men. When you actually look at the data, it tells you that 78% of black men voted for Kamala Harris. That is her second highest voting base.
Okay.
Second to black women. Black women was 92%. Now, the people that really, like, the people that didn't vote for him, when you want to think about people that would have normally voted for him, were Latino men. 44% of Latino men voted for Kamala Harris. 61% of Latino women. So these and white women, only 47% of white women voted for Kamala Harris. And then 39% of white men. So like when all this attention that they give to black men, or negative attention that they give to her second largest voting pool, is, I think it's unfair. And it's just this sort of villainization of black men. And can I just add that,
please,
compared to all, like even from Biden, when you look at Hillary, the rates of voters for Democrats have reduced across the board. Not just like, so black women too, there was like 98% during Hillary's time. So it dropped to 92%. And also black men, it was much higher. I think it was like 70 something percent, or almost 80%. And it's dropped. So yes, it's dropped, but it's also dropped with Latino. It's also dropped with women and everybody else. And that just tells you that people have been leaving the Democratic Party. It doesn't tell you that black men have been leaving the Democratic Party. But I think there's this idea that in the media, because people kind of like, black people are cool, and people kind of follow what black people do and trends. So like, to get that trending on social media, get the black men to get you hype. Oh, even black men are leaving. That means I am Justin leaving as well. So they'll over amplify the black man that has negative things to say about Kamala Harris, and black man that is misogynistic. But to be honest, like misogyny is a global issue.
Absolutely.
And it's an American issue. It's not targeted at black men specifically. And when you look at the data, black men are used to having, especially in America, black men are used to having women in leadership roles. So like black men didn't have an issue with Kamala Harris, like how they tried to put it in the media that black men have this issue with Kamala Harris. This is not truthful.
But you say that. So for instance, I follow Don Lemon, who was a big Kamala Harris supporter. And Don Lemon did a series of Vox Pops interviews all around the country. And there were many black people, black men, whom he interviewed, and they're random, right? Who had an issue with voting for Kamala. Now, here's the thing. We don't know whether that issue is because she's a female, or because they just don't believe in her. A great deal of them thought that they didn't believe what she was saying. Some of them said about the fact that, well, she may not be black. Right, so I want you to touch on that as well. That whole narrative
can I just say,
that they shaped about her being, suddenly, which they got from Trump, where Trump said, first she was Indian, now all of a sudden she's black. All of that was thrown out there, which some courts, including Janet Jackson, all of those things. How did it impact, and how did it play in your opinion?
So there are two things here. It's selective propaganda. The whole sort of idea of like propaganda and positioning with as a journalist is you're framing a narrative based on what you choose to highlight. I'll give you an example. On election day, when I was in line, there was this person from a German news network that was standing outside waiting to interview people. Anytime anyone that was not white came, she did not ask them for an interview. She only asked people that were white for an interview for German television, right? So that tells you that all John Lemon's producers had to do was look, are you black? Are you voting for Kamala? Okay, I'm looking for people that are not voting. You know what I'm saying? So that they're not showing
that's
you.
That's not fair on them. He showed us those who would. He did show us those who would.
I'm just saying, I'm not only highlighting John Lemon for this, but I'm saying it's selective what they're choosing to highlight in the media to amplify. So that's one point. Now with the issue about the black men and Kamala Harris, I think that was not just a thing with black men. That was a thing with independents generally, that, first of all, the Democratic Party have promised black people so many things, and they have not delivered. And now we're in a place, we have more information, we're in a new media ecosystem. This is not what it was in 2020. There was a black consciousness that rose in 2020 after Donald Trump. And that black consciousness has given us a lot more information. And now we are questioning, should we be voting for this party that has not delivered on the things that they have promised us?
Yeah, indeed.
So it was not a Kamala Harris issue. This was an issue. In fact, Kamala did so much better than Biden could have done. So this was already happening when Biden was in office. So sorry, when Biden was running.
Yeah.
Black people were leaving. In fact, Kamala Harris brought a lot of people back to the Democratic Party, right? A lot of Black people back. And then and to answer that, Kamala Harris actually did address these issues that Black people had with her, because it was clear, though, the loudest, most amplified voices were the Black people that were dissatisfied with Kamala Harris. And she did get away, like, she took her some time. Fair enough, she only had 3 months to run. But by the end of the whole campaign, she did so many things, where she went on the Breakfast Club, did a one-on-one interview with Charlemagne. She did this sort of
Which, as a journalist, I would say to you, that was one of the weakest interviews I've ever seen. If I had Kamala Harris in front of me,
I disagree.
I wouldn't allow her to get away with all the things that Charlemagne, who is a pro-Kamala, that was, I mean, let's be honest, that was a PR interview.
Yes and no, because the things that she addressed in that interview, she had not addressed before that interview. These were the conversations. You see the Black men that came on and asked her questions. These are conversations we have been having online, and she had not addressed it until that interview. So there was a lot of people that finally got to see her address reparations and clarify on her previous statement in 2020. There were a lot of people that got to see her address a lot of the issues that Black people were facing, and not just Charlemagne. She also did an event with BET, which was like some Black men conference thing. So she started doing, and then she had an opportunity agenda for Black men, right? So she started addressing some of the issues, but it was like a little too late by the time. You know, if she had the 2 years to run, like Donald Trump had been running for 8 years, can we just acknowledge that?
Absolutely.
If Biden wasn't, selfish and gave it to the Democrats and said, go and pick the best, and she had that 2 years to run, I think that she would have done so much better. And you have to understand, like at the end of the day, when you look at this woman was door knocking, she was getting celebrities to stay in line at universities to get people to stay in line. She was doing all these things the best that she could do to the end. But Donald Trump, he beat her he had 8 years. He beat her in his social media strategy was just superior. They were spending so much money on this sort of traditional media, Kamala Harris. Donald Trump was going for, the podcast.
The alternative media space, yes.
But those platforms, like Joe Rogan podcast got 45 million views. There was another guy, a big podcaster, also got another 45 million views. So just on podcast, Trump got 500 million views. Kamala Harris got like not that many. And so his strategy, and he had his young son that helped him with that, but his strategy was just superior. He had the time. He had been, think about this, like for the past 8 years, he'd never stopped running. So he had the time to develop his strategy. Okay. And so that's why, like, you have to appreciate an underdog story when you look at Donald Trump. You have to appreciate that this is somebody that they tried to kill twice. Like, this is someone that they tried to put him in jail. Like
he's a convict. He's a convict.
Yes, you could say all those. Well, I mean, okay, I'm just being objective.
I mean, he was no, but there's no objectivity where the law is. He was found guilty, right? Okay,
sure, yes, but either way, if they were going to do that with every politician, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden would be in jail.
Yeah, but they were not placed in a courtroom and found guilty.
So the placement of him in the courtroom is objectively is not what they standardly do to American presidents. But whatever the case is, they did that to him, right? Which they didn't do to Joe Biden or Joe Biden's son or Hillary Clinton and all the other people, but they did that to Donald Trump. They tried to kill him twice. They did all these things and the man still won. You have to give, like, at a certain point, you have to give somebody respect where it is due.
I hear you.
Because this guy is the fighter. He's a winner.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris is a winner too, but it's not her turn, so you have to give her Donald Trump respect in that regard.
Well, certainly he is who you would call the comeback king, and he's come back, not just come back, he's come back on a stratospheric level. But we can't get away from the fact that he is a convicted felon, and America effectively just voted for a convicted felon to be the president of the most powerful country in the world. Now, which brings us to Africa. There was actually, before I go away, before I get to Africa, one last thing, because you and I are both women, and these, this particular topic matters to us. Why do you think the abortion, Roe versus Wade, didn't actually change the outcome? Because that was expected. It was expected that Roe versus Wade would. It was expected that the LGBT votes would. It was expected that trans rights would. But it would appear, just in like 2 minutes, because we still have the Africa part to talk about.
I just think that the Democratic Party, again, is out of touch. They made up these like fake metrics that were not reflective of what the population actually wanted. When it comes to abortion, what is the percentage of women that actually have to deal with abortions? Right? You're using that as your platform you're using that as your platform when people can't even pay for groceries. Do you know how high grocery bills have grown over the past 4 years? Like, people care about just having food on their plates, being able to pay their bills. That's like all the other things are a luxury. And the small percentage of women that are actually affected by reproduction, I'm not saying it's not important, but the small percentage of women that are actually affected by that, they don't match the whole population. Yeah. And so I'm not saying that Donald Trump's economic policies are better. They definitely are not. He's going to put America in a lot of issues. But I will say that he had a better way of communicating the needs of the American people to the American people. And Kamala Harris was out of touch with, I don't know, some vanity sort of fake metrics that somebody in her team just put together, which did not reflect the actual needs of every basic American right now.
So let's go back now to my segue. America just voted for a convicted felon to be president. I mean, literally, that is what they voted for. A convicted felon to be president of the most powerful country in the world. A country that sneezes and everybody catches a cold. A country that shapes the lives of billions. Now, let's now come to Africa. In Africa, we are trying to get away from that. So first and foremost, what does America voting for a convicted felon, what does that say to African leaders? There's a message. There's a message that you get.
No, I appreciate it, because I remember when Nigeria got the president, and I saw a German headline when we got Tinubu, and there was a German headline that said Nigeria has a convicted felon as the president. So it's just funny that, okay, well, look at you, you're not better than anyone else now, So I appreciate that. I don't think that, look, Donald Trump. A lot of Nigerians support Donald Trump, especially in America. A lot of Nigerian Americans voted for him.
I want to ask you about that as well.
It's not strange because it's what we know. It's what we know. He exudes the leadership style that we know. You saw Africans celebrating
Brigandage.
Huh?
Brigandage.
This sort of like autocratic way of doing things, this sort of like forceful way of doing things. This is what we know. And this guy, and like you have to like admit that Donald Trump is a guy's guy. Like, and no matter how they try to insult him and do anything to him, like, he's just a cool guy. I'm sorry. And like, people like that. People connect with that. So that's why, like, no one cares if he's a convicted felon. That's obviously clearly not an issue that people cared about. People connect with Donald Trump. Look at that picture of him when they tried to assassinate him. Like one of the most iconic pictures ever in politics.
Absolutely, yeah.
Looks like from straight out of a movie. So like, Donald Trump is that guy. I'm not saying that Kamala isn't that girl, but Donald Trump is that guy, and that's why like Africans celebrate him. And I don't think it matters, because he has immunity, so he will remove the conviction anyway.
Oh, Kenim, I'm loving this conversation. He has immunity. Look, I said to somebody, every time they keep posting these things about Donald Trump, I'm like, he just sounds like a Nigerian leader. He just sounds like an African leader. Every time I read something about him. This is why I think that this is what the critical point that we are in right now with Russia and China, and the potential for World War III. Like, I think America wanted a traditional guy's guy to be able to fight that battle, because you saw very quickly
as soon as he was elected, they were doing all this funny business during the election as China and Russia. They were doing this funny business. As soon as he got elected, you saw them all sort of almost surrender. You see what I'm saying? So, like, if that's the guy to do the job right now, he only has 4 years. Is that the guy to do the job to, like, cool down the tensions, the global tensions about World War III? If that's the guy, then that's the guy. And I don't think that, I think it actually helps, if anything, that he's a convicted felon, that he's really like, yo, I'm more badass than you, Putin. What? I'm what?
Excuse me. So let's now. Oh God, you're gonna be able to call us. Kenim and I are having too much fun. 020127709993, 020146579190. Send a WhatsApp to 0809-597-5805. We are streaming live on YouTube. You will see Kenim. She's beautiful. Okay. And on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. So let's come to Africa. Don't call yet. Now, you people know when you will call. You know when I open the line. Stop calling. I'm just reminding you of the numbers. So let's now, given that is popular, but it called us a shithole country, what should Nigeria expect from Trump 2.0? What do you think he's going to do?
Okay, so there are a few things here that we need to look at. We look at what Donald Trump has said, and we need to look at who he has appointed in his cabinet. Donald Trump has very clearly said that he wants to dismantle the deep state, which is like the CIA. He wants to scatter it and disperse it across the country. So we know that that's already going to be chaos there. He said that he wants to defund or defund NATO, yes. Yeah. And there's speculations that he even wants to dismantle NATO. This is what they're saying in Europe. Like, I think they're being dramatic, but this is what Donald Trump has said, and you have to take him on his word. This is a guy that it's going to be difficult for him to do this in 4 years, but these two things create opportunity for Africa, as I outlined in the documentary. First of all, the CIA has been accused of planting African presidents who are CIA assets. There's recent news about a particular president that may or may not be a CIA asset. But we look at history, and history has said, America, the CIA comes in Africa, puts the leaders that they need to maintain their economic world order. Donald Trump has said he wants to. So the fact that there's even chaos in the CIA already gives you an idea that it will be slower. They'll be slower to move on certain things. And then with NATO, that's sort of like this sort of military militia that Europe uses to be able to inflict America to inflict their neo-colonial economic order on Africa. It seems like they're going to be losing on that. But I will say, Donald Trump has been very clear, him and his team, his cabinet, when you look at Marco Rubio, when you look at John Ratcliffe, when you look at some of these people, you look at their ideologies, they see China as a bigger threat. So I see that they're going to be moving away from this sort of like anti-Russia rhetoric, because they want to unify with Russia, or not unify, let me not use that word, but they want to lessen tensions with Russia, and they want to go full force on China. It looks like a very aggressive neo-colonial campaign now. So anti-Chinese, but there is a neo-colonial thing to it, because don't get it twisted. American foreign policy is all the same, irrespective of the president, right? So there's a neo-colonial agenda, but that target this time looks like it is Latin America more than Africa. You see like stuff like Elon Musk, who is part of his cabinet as well, going back and forth with the Venezuelan president. Venezuela has, I believe, even more oil reserves than Saudi Arabia, like an insane amount of oil reserves. So this idea that Donald Trump doesn't start useless wars and doesn't do all these things, this is not true. When you just look at the best indicator of the future is the past. When you look at his past, he's very clear about what he wants. He even said, I can't remember what country it was in the Middle East, and he was like, we go in for their oil. Like he was, so he's very clear about what he's going after. Which is like very shocking, but right now there's no clear sort of like agenda for Africa, because I think that he just doesn't see. Okay, let me break it down like this. Donald Trump has an economic neo-colonial agenda, whereas the Democrats the modern Democrats have more of a power-driven
imperialist
neocolonial agenda.
Yes.
Right. So they're more about politics and power. That's why they can divide Europe with Russia. But there was economic benefit America gained from this Russia-Ukraine war. Europe did not gain from that. But Donald Trump is like looking at who has the money, who is advancing economically, and let's target them. And he sees China as the biggest threat. So like how we saw with COVID, he was very aggressive during COVID with some of his trade wars with China. Imagine that times 10 now that he is fully focused and knows what he wants to do. But he's also targeting Latin America because they're beneficiaries of China's loans and stuff like that. So Africa too, that is benefiting from that. It's not, they haven't been very clear about what he's going to do with Africa, but I don't think, because Africa is not economically advanced yet in a place where it's under his radar.
Right. So you're saying so effectively what you're saying is he's going to think, okay, you know what? That's just them. I've got bigger fish to fry. I'm not going to get involved with that shithole continent, effectively. Because that's what he calls us.
I mean, right. But you know what? Let me also add that the thing about Donald Trump is like he likes flattery, and those people that were promoting him or whatever they were doing, the people that were having a rally for him, that might make him smile. That might just be the little thing that makes him think, oh look, these Africans, they like me.
There was all about 15 of them out of 250.
Right. Didn't he? I think he reposted it.
Did he?
I think he reposted it.
No.
I don't know if it was a fake thing or if it was, but I think he reposted it. So I think we should be thanking those people that. No, but seriously, it's very clear when you look at the rhetoric of Marco Rubio, when you look at the rhetoric of these people, they are coming after Latin America aggressively. So China, Iran, Latin America. I'm not saying we don't know what the future holds. This is obviously, we're just like looking at the past to indicate. So we don't know what the future holds. We don't know. It's something could happen and then Africa then becomes a target. But also the resources could be too split if they're doing too many things. But we know that we are not the main target. So this is an opportunity for us to advance ourselves. This is an opportunity for us to like look at the gaps in the market that he has an attack on Black America for sure. He's dismantling the Department of Education and sending it to the states so that they can push, and he's going to defund schools that have defund schools
with the
that
DEI,
have affirmative action. So he's definitely attacking Black people. Let's not get that twisted.
Absolutely.
But that creates business opportunity to target Black people, right? That creates those sort of opportunities. So I would like inspect some of the areas that he's defunding. And then think about, we need more Black schools where we're teaching Black histories and stuff like that don't rely on government funding. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We need these things to organize ourselves. So I think the way I would put it is like he's creating, but not by intention, but he's creating an economic system that will allow us, or create gaps that will allow us build the road without sort of interference.
Expand Black business.
Build the road to our advancement.
Yes.
So like I say this, like you can take the horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink the water. So we as Africans need to drink the water. We as Africans need to build for ourselves. We cannot wait for anybody to do anything.
Absolutely.
And so like he even said it himself. He wants to partner with self-reliant African countries. Like he said this, right? And when you look at and this guy is a builder. He loves. When you look at Saudi Arabia and how it's changed, he was very excited about building a Trump Tower or whatever in Saudi Arabia, right? So if we can position Africa in a place, I don't know if we'll get there in 4 years, but if we can position Africa in a place that is advantageous to America, I don't see why he won't see that as an opportunity to empower or to put investment.
Now let's look at his appointment so far. So you've got John RFK is the first one that's literally comes to mind. You've got Gates, who has allegations of sex trafficking, etc. You've got Rubio, whom you've mentioned. You've got Huckabee, and it goes on. Oh, and then you have, he's done something. You've got what's her name, Miles, the first female chief of staff and all of that stuff. When you look at, let's separate Miles because she does stand by herself. When you look at his appointments so far, the ones that we know, it does appear that one, they are pretty much far right, certainly not centrist right. Number one. Number two is it's almost like he's going out of his way for that shock factor. Like, if you think you already know how much I'm going to shock you, you haven't seen anything yet. And every hour or every day, it's like, take this and then take this. I mean, RFK Jr. as health secretary is what? I mean, just you tell me, it's what? I mean, what to say?
So I think he was. Okay, there are too many things to say.
Yeah.
But okay, let me give it. If I give it from his perspective, because I don't like sometimes when you watch CNN and all that stuff, they have a propaganda mission to push towards you that is not necessarily accurate or truthful always, but it's to push their sort of agenda to you. So I like to watch, news from different sources. That gives a rounded picture of the whole thing. And so they've come out and said some of these people are inexperienced, blah, 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 and to be honest, Donald Trump has made his agenda clear, right? His agenda is to, like, when you look at, I've already talked about foreign policy, I talked about CIA directors. So he's putting in people that are loyalists to him, which is not great either, like not loyalists to the Constitution, but loyalists to him as Donald Trump, to make sure that agenda is fulfilled without question, because last time there were people that were creating red tape to prevent him from doing that. He's trying to streamline the process to make sure his vision is put into light. And because he's coming in to completely disrupt the system, completely dismantle, like when you look at he has this new department, a Dodge with Elon Musk and Ramaswamy.
Yes.
What's it called? The Department of, I can't remember, but it's Dodge. The acronyms are Dodge.
Yeah.
And he wants them to government efficiency or something like that. So he wants them to sort of like, they're talking about removing the FBI. They're talking about so many, like removing a lot of departments in government to remove waste. And then once they're done with their agenda, to then get rid of themselves.
Okay.
And I say all this to say that he's bringing in entrepreneurs that understand efficiency to reorder the government. And to me, I'm a person that likes change. I'm a person that likes innovation. I think Elon Musk, as much as like all the terrible things I can say about him and people can say about him, the guy is living in the future and building for the future. And so I like this idea of modernizing the government. I think that the government there's a lot of issues and they're so behind on a lot of things that if we can streamline the government to catch up with the AI revolution, that is actually going to advance America to the next stage, and the world to the next stage. So I don't think it's the worst thing that what Trump is doing with his cabinet based on what his agenda is. So it's questioning the agenda, not necessarily the people.
Thank you.
That he has put in place. But yeah.
Okay, you're calling. Okay, I'm going to answer your calls now. Remember, name, where you're calling from, your question. This time I'll let you one comment, all right? We don't have time. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Godman.
Godman, go ahead.
Yes. So,
where are you? You're in a very strange, noisy place.
God is something because he had obstacles to face.
We can't hear you. Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Hello? This is Michael.
Michael, go ahead. Where are you calling from? And your question?
From Victoria Island.
Okay, what's your question or your comment? One, please. The lines are going.
My comment is that let's give him a chance. Maybe God is just using him. That was my comment.
Okay. All right. It's the good factor. Hello? Hello?
No.
Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, good afternoon. Or good evening, rather.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
I greet your guest.
Yes, Kenim. Her name is Kenim.
Okay. Now, I just want to ask your guest a question.
Go ahead.
Of recent, our president make a very good statement about the Middle East, which is very encouraging. Now, my question
Which
is,
president? Oh, you mean President Trump or President-elect Trump? Nigerian president.
Yes.
Right. Okay,
yes.
but we're talking about Trump right now.
I know.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Okay. At the moment, I think Trump have a new colonialist policy, and is going to concentrate on the internal affairs of America. So, the issue of Africa.
Oh dear, your line cut off. Hello? Oh dear, the line cut off. Call back. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay.
And I appreciate you for last week. After here.
Oh, thank you, Titilokwe. Thank you for listening. It was a good show.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you bring back Nigeria,
Yes.
this time. You bring him back again.
Yes.
Yeah, this I guess. First of all, let me disagree. I don't agree that Donald Trump had a new colonialism agenda. I don't believe in that.
Okay, what do you think he has?
Because right now, no. America has already dominated anywhere and everywhere they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that in partnership with the Western Alliance, the UK, the whatever, is the reason why Donald Trump is going out. Donald Trump believes he can thrive without all of these people. That is why I said, I'm not going to be paying 20 billion to NATO. Do whatever you want to do yourself. I want to do my vaccine alone. I don't want to follow the world order, what you call the world order. America has always been great before all of this alliance, before the Second World War. America has always been. That is his belief. If you see, look at what look at what Kennedy said now. He said he's a vaccine skeptic. This is that. All of this, there are new things, which of course part of the reason why Donald Trump failed in 2020 with Anthony Fauci saying that they failed.
Yeah, so I need you to wrap up, Titilokwe, because if I leave you,
my question is,
yes.
Do you think we'll get to a point where the Congress or the Senate will be in combat with Donald Trump, believing that the Republican has
I see your point. Okay, so Kenim, write that down. The lines are going. His question.
So I didn't understand his question.
His question is: do you think there's going to be a point where the Congress is going to be in combat, head to head, go head to head with Donald Trump, despite the fact that they're the majority, Republicans are the majority? I'm coming. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Yes. I love what your guest is speaking. You see, Donald Trump is a man of peace. So what I'm just thinking about now, how is he going to handle this Middle East, this Israeli? Because I love Israel. I'm a Christian. I love Israel, but the killing is too much, getting too much. How are you going to handle it?
Okay, thank you. And the last one I'll take for now. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your name and where you're calling from and your question, please.
Pastor Badamosi from Sule.
Pastor Badamosi, go ahead, please.
I don't know why we concentrate on America and Donald Trump and all that. America has not been helping us in Nigeria here, even Africa. They have not been helping us.
But we didn't say they were. We didn't say they were. Well, what we are exploring, Pastor, let me tell you, what we are exploring is whether we like it or not. And you've listened to Borderlands, you're one of our regular contributors. Whether we like it or not, America impacts what happens in Africa, by extension, Nigeria. So we are going to discuss it, right?
China is far more better.
No, I didn't say who is better. I said the impact. I didn't say who is better.
They buy our oil, they don't want to buy our manufactured goods. And I don't like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think Pastor Badamosi quite understood what I was saying, but I have a WhatsApp message here. It's from Isaac. Isaac from Ikeja said, first and foremost, Don Lemon is far left. I think where the Dems lost it and are still losing it is trying to paint their loss on racism and misogyny rather, and the mainstream left media were really more of a Trump derangement syndrome infected, while Trump focused on alternative media like John Rogan, PBD, Tucker Carlson, etc. Ireti, the public knew that all the whole Trump, they knew all the while, you meant, right, all the while that Trump is a convicted thing with all a political thing. If I may ask, what was he convicted for? Also, was the abortion issue the topmost problem of the American populace? Well, we've kind of answered that, but Kenim, is there any of what you've heard, so I can answer other calls, that you'd like to respond to?
I'll quickly say this idea. So this idea that Donald Trump is a man of peace is not accurate. Like it's very obvious. Like his team, his cabinet have made it very clear that they're going to increase the rate of violence in Palestine. In fact, the person that he has appointed,
Huckabee.
Yes, even does not believe that Palestine he
doesn't believe in the West Bank. He believes in
right,
Judea
and they should be removed. They should be removed. The people should be moved to another country in the Middle East. So this is his people are extreme. When you just look at history, he didn't stop any wars. He was continuing in Syria. He was continuing in Afghanistan. So this is not somebody that is a man of peace. That this is not a truthful narrative. In fact, it looks like he's even going to start a new war with China, and looking at the way the tension went during COVID, and even just about 2 years ago, there were articles about America may have war with China by 2025 or something. I could see potentially China and America almost starting a war. Like Donald Trump is going full force at BRICS and at China. And his points will he wants to divide that bond with Russia and China.
Okay.
He wants to slow down the rate of people de-dollarizing, and he wants to go full force attack on China. And when you think about Taiwan, microchips and all of that, it's like Donald Trump is not a man of peace. So this is a false narrative that people have pushed. He's also a neo-colonialist. Okay, so go on.
Well, I can answer your calls now. I know they were calling, but I didn't want to interrupt you whilst you're talking. We've got 3 minutes left. I can only take one more call. Hello?
Hello, Ireti. This is Memnon calling from Festa.
Go ahead, Memnon, very quickly.
Yeah, I would say a war against China is also a war against Africa, considering the amount of investment China has in Africa. There's no way he will go after China that won't affect us. Then secondly, even if they hit China, you are attacking the factory of the world. It will be a Pyrrhic victory. There is no way even their own economy will not be hit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to try and squeeze in one last one and then you can answer. Hello?
Hello, good day.
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, my name is Ezor. I'm calling from VI.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, please, I want to ask something about Kamala Harris and the Trump.
Go ahead, very quickly.
Okay, is there any time Kamala Harris wedded man to man and woman to woman when he was a judge or something like that?
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Hi, I can see your face. Okay. You don't understand that, but I'm going to give you a minute. Okay. Just because we're literally almost out of time.
Okay, so China, saying that it won't affect Africa, yeah, but what I think that Africa benefits from a multipolar world where there are two powers. We cannot have loyalty to any one country, China or Russia, but we need to stay in the middle. We need to stay on the fence. And then to talk about China being the factory of the world, actually, what we need in Africa is manufacturing. And actually, Trump's agenda with his tariffs is to increase manufacturing in America. I don't know how that's going to work because of the dollar is so expensive. So they're not going to be able to. It's not going to be sustainable. Then you're also going to have, even though things are manufactured in America, you're still going to have suppliers increasing their price up to meet the tariff prices. So his whole 100% tariff thing in America is not going to work. But his agenda is to increase manufacturing in America.
Thank you.
And so to answer that, China doesn't need to be the factory of the world anymore. They've even moved into high-end factory production. But Africa has an opportunity, if Trump does decide to fight with China, to say, you can use us for your manufacturing, and that's going to help us develop. That's what help China develop. So we have to just look at Africa as independent.
Very quickly, they're about to take me off air. Right. Okay. I want you to close. I've got a message here for you, which I don't know whether you'd like. It says, good evening, Cecile. My regards to your guest. To me, I think Donald Trump loves Africa in the sense that he wants African countries and their leaders to be productive and not dependent. That's from Marvelous in Ikorodu. 30 seconds. What do you say?
No, I don't think he loves Africa. You can see he does not like black people. He doesn't like black people, and I think he thinks Africa is a shithole.
You are listening to your number one station for talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
So Africa, we are just going to benefit from the byproduct of his
Ikeja. You go.
What's going on, fam?
It's Nigeria Pepe they come. Follow
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.